Welcome back, everyone. It's become one of the most popular sports in the world. Formula One racing brings intense rivalries, million-dollar cars, and expertly trained drivers. The motorsport is one of the only mixed-gender sports there are, giving men and women a chance to compete against each other. But there isn't always equal funding to bring them onto the track. That's where female race car drivers like Jamie Chadwick come in. She's making sure young girls are able to put their racing careers into high gear.
There's always stress. There's always adrenaline. There's always kind of nerves. There weren't really any women in the sport when I started, or not that I raced against. I was the only girl more often than not. My name is Jamie Chadwick and I am a racing driver for Andretti Global in Indy Next. Before I got into racing, I was described as quite a big tomboy. I had an older brother and very competitive with him. Everything he would do, I would want to do. As soon as he started in racing, it was quite a big decision, or obvious decision, for me to kind of follow him into it. And from there, yeah, I just fell in love with the sport.
Jamie Chadwick wins the first W Series race.
Out of the final corner, Jamie Chadwick sees the checkered flag first and wins at Budapest. Jamie Chadwick wins the opening race of the W Series season. It's 7 wins in a row for Jamie Chadwick.
Beautiful morning here on the streets of St. Petersburg.
I'm very fortunate in Indy Next to have the opportunity that I have, and Andretti are a big reason for that. They brought me over and gave me the chance, but now we've got 2 women in the series. There's no reason why we can't have 7, 8 women in the series.
Back up front is Nolan Siegel, Jacob Abel, Miles Rowe, and Louis Foster. Thought Louis Foster might be a bit more aggressive in the start, but he decided to put back in behind the leaders now.
I went down the inside, stopped it on the apex, thinking he was going to get under me, and he just stayed, hung it on the outside. So then I gave him too much opportunity there. I should have just steamrolled it past him.
All right, like you said, a lot of positives still, I think.
My ultimate goal is obviously Formula One, but there's 20 seats in Formula One, and it is one of the hardest sports in the world, in my opinion. So I'm under no illusions as to what it takes to get to that point, but I strongly believe if I can get good results in Indy Next, ultimately I want to go to potentially IndyCar next. If I win every race this year, win every race next year, then there's no reason why I could be in Formula One. The accolades don't mean a huge amount. I don't care so much for being the first woman to do anything. I don't see that as being necessarily not a compliment, but like a positive thing. I see it as, if anything, being a negative thing, because really there is no reason why I should be the first woman to do all these things.
How accurate are these?
Sims?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's never going to be perfect, but at the same time, yeah, considering we don't get to drive this track until we really race there, yeah, it's pretty close. I think the sport definitely isn't the most accessible. It's an expensive sport to get into. These cars are inherently designed for the average male driver, so actually as a smaller person, it's been a challenge to get strong enough to be fit enough to actually just drive the cars. My training has changed a lot as a result. I think one of the big misconceptions of our sport is that it's not physical, but it definitely is. The cars that we drive outside of Formula One, so in the junior series, we don't have power steering. They're inherently designed for men. They're all standard cars, so the steering wheel in my car usually would be the same as the steering wheel in every other car, but given my hands are smaller than, say, some of the boys, we've now designed it to be better for me.
Motorsport is one of the world's only mixed-gender sports. There are very few sports in the world where men and women compete on equal footing, so it has this massive opportunity that it is sort of missing. We found a range of barriers that have blocked the progress of women and girls in the sport. The primary one is the very small participation pool, so less than 10% of all female participants in motorsport are female. Largely people come into the sport through karting, so you can take that up from a very young age before moving on to open wheel racing. I think we're now seeing different initiatives for women in the sport. Formula One Academy, for example, which is an all-female racing series, was set up partly in recognition of the fact that women often have less opportunity to race. We found in our research is that girls really struggle to pick up the funding required, whether it's from sponsors or investors. We've just got too few Jamie Chadwicks, for example, for a sponsor or a backer to really take that risk on the girl.
When I was kind of progressing through the sport, there was Claire Williams at the helm of Williams Racing that then took me on into being a young driver, and also Susie Wolff was actually testing in the Williams at that time. So I was lucky I had sort of role models of people, women visible in the sport.
I've been in motorsport over 35 years and the sport has changed. F1 Academy is a race series that's been made by Formula One to really help women to succeed in the sport.
It's Bianca Bustamante ahead of Jess Edgar. Bustamante crosses the line to take her second win.
Coming from Philippines is quite tough to get into the sport. Philippines is not known to have racing drivers. We don't even have the facility to cater to, Formula car racing. We don't have the track, the equipment. The structure of F1 Academy is built by a strong foundation because it's backed by women. Growing up, I've always raced against boys, and I always would feel sort of alone that I was always the only female, the only girl, and I always felt so left out. But the fact that I'm in a championship that encourages femininity, encourages you to be who you are as you are.
Oh, that is a squeeze at the apex of turn one. She's able to hold the position.
In my opinion, there is no reason why it's so male-dominated. It shouldn't be. It can be a sport that is really open to all. There's a lot of initiatives going on, but there isn't really anything tackling absolute grassroots level. So that's the bit that I wanted to try and kind of help where we could. You'll see there's so many different people that are involved. The driver gets the credit, he gets to stand on the podium, or they get to stand on the podium, but there's mechanics, there's engineers, there's the person that makes sure the pit stop, makes sure the wheels are on the car. Really it is trying to encourage as many young girls into that kind of first step into a go-kart, into the sport. And then from there, whoever wins it will get a bit of guidance and mentorship and also a bit of funding to the next step. So you've never done anything like this?
All of your helmets flipped up.
We're doing it nice and slowly, okay?
Today's actually really cool because most of the girls that I've spoken to have never even watched racing, have no idea about it, so the fact that they can try this for the first time is really, really cool.
You have to see a young woman achieving something to think, maybe I can do that. But I was one of those annoying little girls that was hugely competitive. I loved speed, I loved adrenaline. I got my first go-kart at 8, and that was, for me, the start of the journey.
Put your marker up.
16.
With what Jamie Chadwick is doing now, so setting up a whole initiative to get girls into grassroots and to help them to see that there's a ladder for them. We don't want women feeling that they have to do this, but I think they have naturally sort of, because they've experienced, to challenge themselves on the way up. We need more Jamie Chadwicks though. We need another 10 or 20 of her.
You need to go far, you want to go faster, so you need to come back and do it again so you can go quicker.
I've turned up to a few of these events and there's been young girls and I felt like I've got imposter syndrome. I'm like, well, why? They don't necessarily want to listen to me or hear from me.
It's a bit tight. There you go.
It takes one or two of those girls to come up to me and say if they're, inspired into the sport.
How was it? Good. Good.
And that's enough for me to kind of relax a little bit and think this is something that I'm really proud to try and kind of wave the flag for. And like I said, if it's not me, there are so many great women in the sport that are equally pushing really hard, and I think that is going to make a difference down the line to try and encourage more and more young girls into it.
Women in the fast lane and breaking down barriers.